There's three things that most all parents suffer from when you're watching an athlete, especially in the sport of wrestling, which is it's very stressful, obviously. Emotionally draining, we call it. Number one, you probably have felt or do feel like your kids are behind the others. It might be just self-assuredness, maybe, in technique-wise, or just they look like they're 2 steps behind. Secondly, probably confidence. They're probably all over the map. They either have an easy kid and then they just are smiling and then they're psyched up and they go out there and they just wrestle like a freaking dynamo, and then they go out there and don't do so well. Maybe lay down, the younger kids cry, the high school kids just basically look like they're a rag doll at times. The third thing is consistency, all right? And that kind of ties into number 2 a little bit. Or you might even see them when they start to get the hang of it after 2, 3, 4 years of experience. You might see them beat a state champ, and then they come back and they lose 2 matches 1 weekend to kids they should not lose to. All of these things are tied to technique, right? Technique and skill. Because obviously if you feel like your kids are 2 or 3 steps behind, they probably are. Right? So a lot of live wrestling is required in the sport of wrestling so you can get the feel. It's just like a lot of time on the ice skates or on the balance beam is required in hockey and gymnastics. So I encourage keeping your kids on the mat once a week year round. It's unbelievable what it can do for them. You know, kids who train just once a week in our academy for 2 hours a week, they get over 520 matches worth of live, and they only come 2 hours a week. I think there's 168 hours in a week. Only 2 hours of it spent wrestling. Kids can't get burned out. If they say they're burned out, say no, jump in the car, we're going to practice. And if you don't want to practice, we're not wrestling next year. I mean, at some point in time, they have to go, right? You can't like go to a bodybuilding competition and not lift weights for 8 months. You just can't do it. You wouldn't let your daughter on a balance beam or a high bar routine or do the vault, which is extremely dangerous, after not doing gymnastics for 8 months. So say no, we're gonna practice, right? The burnout thing is just an excuse. Don't fall for it. Now, as far as consistency, yeah, confidence. Confidence is number 2. Confidence comes from skill. Also, we keep coming back to skill. I would not have confidence in if I had to take an engineering test, but I have confidence if I was to take, a long division test. That doesn't bother me. Or an easy spelling test. I could care less, right? So but as I studied and got smarter and became skilled, now I can handle the higher tests. You might be okay walking a balance beam, but if you were expected to do a back handspring on one, you might not want to do that, right? You say, I don't have confidence in that. And they go, well, no wonder you don't have confidence, because you're no good. Get back up and let's practice, right? So it comes down to skill. Consistency also does. You get on the roller coaster, right? Win big, lose big, have a good day, have a bad day. It's like trading punches. We just punch each other in the face until somebody falls down. Sometimes it works out for me, sometimes it works out against me. We don't want to live that way on the wrestling mat. So get your kids wrestling as far as in the core, the best positions. You don't go, if you go to a camp and they say, oh, we spent all day wrestling out of an overhook. We have a lace leg, we have a far side headlock, we have an inside trip, we have a foot sweep, underarm spin, a fireman's carry. It's awesome. Well, anybody that knows wrestling would say, you just wasted 1 day of a 5-day camp. You wasted 20%. And that coach who taught you that should be fired. Why? Because wrestling from an overhook is not a good position to wrestle from. It's like throwing a hook shot in basketball. We don't do it. Right? There's better ways. So in wrestling, your wrestling should get smaller, and you should avoid wrestling in all the positions. And so the wrestling, the core techniques, and there's still a lot of them. It's not as many as you think. But wrestling, sometimes your kids are not consistent because they don't wrestle in the best positions, and they'll wrestle from anywhere. All right? So it all kind of comes down to drills and skills, and everything sort of is sort of connected, and there's a relationship there between skill. It kind of puts everything together. Your kids won't feel like they're far behind. We tell our athletes, I want you to be able to go to have a 2-point match with anybody in America. It's very relaxing. When you have 1-point matches, 15 of them a month, and you're losing 8 matches and you're getting taken down 37 times in practice, man, wrestling sucks. But when you get really good, wrestling doesn't suck. You're like, dude, I can go 2-point match with anybody in America, or anybody in my state at least. I'm relaxed, right? I still may not place in state. It's still a little bit stressful. There's no guarantees, but I know that my kid's going to be right in there, right? And that's very exciting. And that's where you want to get to that place of relaxation through developing the skills of wrestling. So that's the best way to stomp out those 3 issues. Feeling like your kids are behind, lack of confidence, lack of consistency. It all comes down to drill time, skill time, and just basically having a healthy drill time and the core techniques in wrestling from the best positions. So good luck, and we wish you a lot of success.